The eternal empire. What if Rome never fell? Most historical advice is lying to you. You've been taught that the fall of the Roman Empire was an inevitable tragedy, a slow, agonizing decay of a civilization that had simply run its course. You've been told that the Dark Ages were a necessary reset for humanity. But what if that is the single biggest misconception in the history of our species? What if I told you that the 1,000-year gap of lost knowledge, the plague-ridden centuries of the Middle Ages, and the slow crawl back to scientific literacy weren't a necessity, but a mistake? A mistake that could have been avoided by a single decision made in a dark, rain-soaked forest 2,000 years ago. Imagine a world where the Roman eagle never stopped flying. A world where the Industrial Revolution didn't wait for the 18th century, but ignited in 300 AD. A world where Roman triremes were powered by high-pressure steam instead of human oars, and where the first person to step onto the lunar surface didn't speak English, but spoke the fluent, rhythmic Latin of an unbroken empire. In this investigation, you're going to learn how one specific forest battle changed the trajectory of human technology forever. We are going to deconstruct the nuclear Pax Romana, a timeline of unbroken progress that would have placed our current technology a millennium ahead of where it sits today. If you're like most people, you think the internet and space travel are modern miracles, the hard-won prizes of the 20th century. But in the world we are about to explore, these are ancient history. Pay close attention, because in this video, I am going to reveal the one sentence, the one tactical shift that saved the empire and doomed the Middle Ages to a history book that was never written. Stop. Think about that for a second. We are talking about 10 centuries of human potential that were simply deleted. By the end of this video, you won't just see history differently. You'll understand the 3 pillars of success that build empires and YouTube channels. Let's go back to where the future died. Chapter 1. The Victory at Teutoburg Forest. The year is 9 AD. The place is the Teutoburg Forest. In our timeline, this was the end of the Roman dream. 3 of the finest legions in the world were lured into a trap and slaughtered by Germanic tribes. The Roman border was pushed back from the Elbe to the Rhine. Central Europe was abandoned. The momentum of the greatest civilization on Earth was broken, and it never truly recovered. You've probably noticed how history feels like a series of tragedies, a sequence of what-ifs that always seem to end in fire. But not this time. In our world, General Publius Quinctilius Varus was a man out of his depth. He trusted his friend Arminius, a Germanic prince who had been granted Roman citizenship. Varus saw a loyal ally. Arminius saw a target. As the rain poured down, the Roman soldiers were weighed down by their heavy gear, their leather shields soaked and useless, their formations shattered by the dense trees. They were hacked to pieces in the mud. But in this world, the human brain decided differently. Structure is predictable, and in this timeline, Varus relies on the core of Roman discipline, skepticism and engineering. Instead of blindly following Arminius into the heart of the Cochrys Narrows, Varus experiences a moment of tactical clarity. He looks at the geography and sees a cage. He hears the eerie silence of the deep woods and recognizes it for what it is, the breath of an ambush. Arminius approaches Varus, pointing toward a shortcut through the marshes. In our world, Varus nods and leads his men to their graves. But here, Varus halts. He looks at the prince, then at the narrowing path. He realizes that a Roman army's greatest weapon isn't the sword, it's the shovel. He delivers the command that changes everything. The one sentence that saves the future. The legions will not march, they will build. This is the relatability effect in action. If you've ever felt like you were walking into a trap, whether in business or in life, you know that the only way out is to change the environment. These aren't just soldiers anymore. They are the front line of the future. Varus refuses to play the game on Germanic terms. He turns the forest into a construction site. By felling trees to create clear kill zones and digging deep trenches, the Romans forced the Germanic tribes to attack a fortified position. Arminius, realizing the trap has failed, is forced to launch a desperate, disorganized charge. Why does this matter to you? Because the survival of these legions meant the border didn't stop at the Rhine. In the following months, bolstered by reinforcements, Varus and the Roman command don't retreat. They push. They establish the Elbe defense line, a permanent stone and marble fortification across the shortest neck of the European continent. By securing this frontier, the empire achieved something it never had in our timeline: total geographic stability. They didn't have to spend 80% of the imperial budget on border defense against barbarians, because the barbarians were now inside the system. They were being Romanized. They were being taxed. They were being educated. This is the part nobody warns you about. Wealth is a product of stability. With the northern frontier sealed, the empire didn't have to keep its entire military on a war footing for 400 years. Instead, it invested in something else. It invested in the mind. Think about the Dark Ages, that 1,000-year gap where we forgot how to make concrete, how to build aqueducts, and how to perform basic surgery. In this timeline, those ages don't exist. The Library of Alexandria isn't burned by religious zealots. It's expanded by imperial decree. Was this inevitable? No. It was the result of structure. Roman structure was built to last, but it needed a moment of peace to pivot from conquest to creation. By 100 AD, the Eternal Empire had reached a level of urban density that our world wouldn't see again until the 1800s. But stability can lead to stagnation. To truly become eternal, the Romans needed a new source of power. They needed to move beyond the muscle of the slave and the horse. And that brings us to the most incredible turning point in human history: the moment the Romans discovered fire within the machine. Chapter 2: The Roman Industrial Revolution. If you're like most people, you've heard of Hero of Alexandria. In our timeline, he was a brilliant mathematician who lived in the 1st century AD. He invented the steam engine, the Eolipile, but the Romans treated it as a toy, a curiosity to entertain the elite at dinner parties. In our world, the Romans had a slave problem. Why build a machine when you can just buy 1,000 people to do the work for you? This is the relatable pain of any stagnating business. When you have cheap, inefficient labor, you have no incentive to innovate. But in a world where the empire has integrated Northern Europe, the labor market has changed. The Germanic and Celtic populations are now citizens, not slaves. The cost of human labor is rising. For the first time in history, the Roman venture capitalists, the wealthy senators and equites, are looking for a way to maximize output. In this timeline, Hero's designs are not forgotten in a dusty library. They are funded. By 150 AD, Roman metallurgy, already the most advanced in the world, meets Greek mechanical theory. The Romans were masters of the concrete revolution. They knew how to create volcanic ash cement that set underwater. Now, they apply that same material science to high-pressure vessels. They discover that by lining a bronze boiler with a thin layer of their specialized lead-in tin alloys, they can contain enough pressure to move a piston. By 250 AD, the Eternal Empire is experiencing its first coal rush. The vast coal fields of Roman Britain, Britannia, and the Ruhr Valley in Germania become the beating heart of the world. Contrast the slow pace of real-world history with this accelerated Roman timeline. In our world, it took 1,700 years after Hero for James Watt to perfect the steam engine. In this world, the Romans do it in 150. By 300 AD, the Mediterranean, the Mare Nostrum, is transformed. The iconic Roman triremes, once dependent on the rhythmic rowing of hundreds of men, are gone. In their place are the Vulcan-class ships. Imagine the Roman Navy in 350 AD. They can now move against the wind. They can maintain a constant speed of 15 knots regardless of the weather. Logistics, the core of the cursus publicus, suddenly moves at the speed of steam. This is the part nobody warns you about. Technology doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It requires a massive, unified market. Because the Roman Empire was a single trade zone with a single currency, the denarius, and a single law code, a steam engine invented in Alexandria could be manufactured in Gaul and sold in Judea within weeks. The Romans didn't just invent the engine, they invented the supply chain. By 400 AD, the Roman world is connected by a network of iron rails. A traveler can go from Rome to Constantinople in 3 days. In our world, that same trip in 400 AD took a month and was likely to end in a shipwreck or a bandit attack. But there is a problem. The empire is now too efficient. They have processed all the iron in Spain. They have burned half the coal in Britain. The Mediterranean is a solved lake. The Roman spirit is built on imperium, the need to expand. And in 450 AD, the emperor looks toward the setting sun across the vast, terrifying Atlantic. You might think this is the peak of the story, but the most shocking part is yet to come. Because the Romans weren't just going to find a new continent, they were going to find a new destiny. Chapter 3. The Discovery of Nova Roma. The year is 450 AD. In our world, this was the time of Attila the Hun and the final collapse of the Western Roman Empire. But in this timeline, Attila was defeated decades ago by a Roman army equipped with early model steam cannons and disciplined riflemen. The emperor commissions the Atlantic fleet, not to find a trade route to India. The Romans already control the Suez Canal they dug 2 centuries ago, but out of pure, unadulterated Roman ambition. The Roman explorers are equipped with advanced Greek-made astrolabes, steam-powered desalination kits to turn seawater into fresh drinking water, and calculating discs that can predict the tides with 99% accuracy. After 20 days of steaming west, the lookout cries out in a language that has never been heard on these shores. Terra ad fronte. Imagine the scene. The Roman eagle, the Aquila, is planted on the white sands of a world that shouldn't exist for another 1,000 years. But the Romans don't see a new world to be slowly colonized. They see Nova Roma, New Rome. They don't bring small groups of starving settlers. They bring legions of engineers. Within 5 years, the first American city is built. It is called Aderna. But here, the relatable pain of empire returns. If you've ever tried to manage a project where the communication was broken, you know the frustration. In 500 AD, even with the fastest steamships, a message from the governor of Nova Roma takes 3 weeks to reach the emperor in Rome. The empire was growing so fast that it was outrunning its own brain. A rebellion could start in the New World, and the emperor wouldn't know until the rebels were already at his door. This tension, the anxiety of the information gap, created a new necessity. In our timeline, the 19th century British Empire faced this same problem and solved it with the telegraph. In the Eternal Empire, they solved it with light and math. The Romans didn't just need faster ships. They needed telepresence. They needed the cursus publicus digitalis. Chapter 4. Global Hegemony and Early Computer Networks. If you're like most people, you think the internet is a modern invention, a product of the 1960s Cold War. But in this world, the cursus publicus digitalis, the digital public way, is centuries old by the year 600 AD. The Romans took the Greek concept of the hydrotelegraph, which used water levels to send messages, and they digitized it. Using a series of shutters and powerful lamps fueled by concentrated Greek fire, these towers blink binary light codes across the globe. A message can travel from the shores of Florida to the Palatine Hill in Rome in under an hour. This wasn't just a communication tool, it was the internet of the ancient world. But the Romans didn't stop at sending messages. They needed to process data. The empire was now managing a population of nearly 1 billion people. How do you track the taxes, the grain supply, the military deployments, and the census for 1 billion people? You build the calculating engine, built of brass and silver, powered by a steady flow of high-pressure steam. The calculating engine is a mechanical computer based on the logic of the Stoics. It doesn't use silicon chips. It uses thousands of interlocking gears and punch cards made of durable, lacquered papyrus. This is the part nobody warns you about. If you have the math, which the Greeks did, and the engineering, which the Romans did, you don't need electricity to have a computer. You just need a power source and a lot of brass. By 800 AD, the world is a single, interconnected marble and brass entity. If you're like most people, you think connectedness is a modern invention, but in this world, it's the foundation of life. There are no nations. There are no foreigners. There is only the civitas, the citizenship. Every person on earth, from the tribes of the Amazon to the scholars of the Himalayas, speaks Latin as their first language. There is no dark age. There is only the long light. But as the year 1000 AD approaches, the empire has reached its limits. The earth is fully mapped. The oceans are crossed in days. Every resource, every ounce of coal, every vein of gold, is accounted for in the great census. The Roman gaze, which had once looked across the Rhine and then across the Atlantic, finally turns toward the one place left to conquer: the heavens. Chapter 5. The Nuclear Pax Romana and Moon Landing. This is the payoff. This is the result of 2,000 years of unbroken, structured progress. In our world, the 20th century was defined by two horrific world wars that nearly ended civilization. In this timeline, those wars never happened. There was no German problem, no French-German rivalry. There was only Rome. By 1500 AD, Roman scientists, working in the great academy of Archimedes in Syracuse, mastered the atom. But they didn't use it to destroy cities. They used it to enforce the nuclear Pax Romana. Because there is only one government on Earth, there is no space race between rival nations. There is only a slow, methodical expansion of the human frontier. The year is 1960 AD. But the calendar doesn't say 1960. It says Anno Urbis Conditi 2713, the 2713th year since the founding of the city. The hatch opens. A Roman praetorian steps out. He is not wearing a bulky, white suit. His suit is a sleek masterpiece of golden white pressurized fabric, his helmet a gleaming dome of reinforced glass. He doesn't say, "One small step for man." He doesn't speak for a single country. He speaks for the eternal city. He plants the red vexillum of the empire into the silver dust. In nomine Romi, hoc mare tranquillum est Roma est mundus, et mundus est Roma. In the name of Rome, this sea is tranquil. Rome is the world, and the world is Rome. This is the triumph of structure. Every bit of this progress, the steam, the discovery, the digital net, the atomic peace, the moon, can be traced back to that one rainy afternoon in the Teutoburg Forest. Structure is predictable, and the Roman structure was built to last. When Varus chose not to die, he chose a future where humanity never had to start over. He chose a world where 50,000 generations of human genius weren't wasted on survival, but were invested in transcendence. Now here is our conclusion. History is not a straight line. It is not an inevitable march toward progress. It is a series of fragile decisions. The version of history you just witnessed wasn't a fantasy, it was a possibility. A possibility that was lost because of a lack of clarity, consistency, and structure in one single moment in 9 AD. In our world, Rome fell because it lost its structure. It became a collection of individuals chasing power rather than a system building a future. If this version of history made sense to you, if you can see how the right system, applied at the right time, changes everything, then you're ready for the next level of this investigation. YouTube success and imperial success both rely on the same three pillars: clarity, consistency, and structure. If you want to understand how those pillars can build a different kind of empire, the kind that exists on your screen today, you need to see our next investigation. We are diving into the Greek steampunk empire. We'll explore what would have happened if Archimedes had been given the resources of a modern corporation. It's a world where the Industrial Revolution happened even earlier, led by the greatest mathematician of the ancient world. If you want to understand the psychology behind why some civilizations explode while others fade into the Dark Ages, don't stop here. The journey through what could have been is just beginning. Every video we make is a new province in the empire of knowledge we are building together. I'll see you in the next one. Roma Eterna.